Good morning, everybody. How are you all going? So nice to be here today. This is day 3 of the Cleanse Reboot. So on day 1, we talked about where to start, what signs to look out for that you need to cleanse, where to start with the lymphatic system, start with the skin and get cleansing that way. On day 2, we talked about the kidneys. Getting the kidneys going, getting the kidneys cleansing, getting the kidneys working for you, getting rid of the urea, getting rid of the ammonia. I don't know if anybody saw on the news actually the other night about water in South Australia, and that's why it's even more important to make sure you're filtering your water. You know, they're doing their job to try and clean the water department, but it's really important that you kind of cleanse some of those things out and remineralize, and it's especially important for your kidneys, super important for your kidneys. So yesterday we talked about all of that, and we also talked about the connection between MTHFR, drinking water with high ammonia, and what that can do to your body, and it can actually increase ammonia levels in your body. So even more important for those with MTHFR to actually be cleansing their kidneys. So today we're going to talk about the bowel. We're going to talk about what we can do to the bowel to help cleanse it, to help nutrify it, so that it's cleansing along with the rest of your body. And remember, when you're cleansing and when you're detoxing, you really need to be doing it in this order, because if you go full on the liver and start cleansing the liver out, and you're not sure what your bowel's doing, you're not sure what your kidneys are doing, or your lymphatic system's clogged up, it's actually going to cause issue. It's going to cause more toxins, it's going to cause more byproducts, it's going to cause more metabolites, causing inflammation, causing cell turnover, maybe in an unfriendly manner. So it's really important to do it in this way. Start small, start simple, start with the skin, start with the skin brushing, start with the gentle lymphatic drainage, start with working on the lymph system, then move into the kidneys, then move into the bowel, and just do a couple of things. So today we're going to talk about the bowel. It's very common for people to have issues with the bowel, you know, whether it's constipation, whether it's IBS, whether it's fructose malabsorption, whether it's all the FODMAPs, wind, bloating. Oh, hi Kelly, thanks for joining. Lovely to have you back. Thanks for pointing that out. You've got Crohn's. I'm in remission, but okay, you're in remission. Brilliant. Okay, good to hear that. Really not a nice thing, but yeah, definitely looking after your digestive system is really important. So I'm going to give you a few tips today, and hopefully that will help. So, you know, lots and lots of symptoms, you know, issues like colitis, issues like Crohn's, all these issues that stem in the bowel. And if we think of our bowel really, it encompasses the whole, every single kind of, our eyes, our nose, our ears, our mouth, our sinus, goes down to our bowel, goes down to our vagina, goes down to our anus. This is all completely connected. So if you've got any problems externally, if you've got itchy, waxy ears, if you've got dry, itchy eyes, if you constantly have sinus problems, or if you've got smelly breath or a white coating on the tongue, or you have bad teeth in terms of you're always having to go to the dentist and get fillings, and you've got unexplained cavities, then there's something going on in your digestive system. So you really need to look inwards and figure out what's going on in your digestive system. And again, be gentle with your digestive system. Work on the simple things first. I'm going to take you through just the simple first things to work on. And obviously the first place to work when it comes to your digestive system is actually working in the mouth, working here first. So when we have food, when we ingest food, obviously we chew it. Our saliva helps to break down some of the carbohydrates. So it breaks down the food. Whatever we're eating, chewing our food is very, very important. Then it goes into the stomach. And depending on what you're eating, depending on whether you're stressed, depending on what's going on, your stomach is like a bag, and it will kind of throw the food around, and it will do all this and mush it up and throw it back and forth, and do all this kind of stuff to make it so it's digestible. Now, some things will leave your stomach within 30 minutes, like fruit and water and smoothers. Other things like meats or really heavy meals, they can take up to 5 hours. So for 5 hours, your body can actually be working. And this is one of the reasons I recommend having breaks between meals and not snacking constantly, because it does give your digestive system a break. And I am going to touch on that a little bit later on. So once the food leaves your stomach, it goes into the small intestine. Now the small intestine should be a super clean tube. It gets cleaned out all the time. It should be brand spanking new clean. It should be shiny. It's got the villi. And what happens is your food kind of gets sucked through here, and the villi take the food, and the food goes in between the villi, and the villi takes all the food that it needs to take. And that's where the majority of the absorption will be going on. So the villi are doing that. And basically the small intestine, it's the villi are pushing and pushing the food, touching it, getting it, grabbing what it needs, pushing and pushing and pushing until eventually there's not too much left. And then it goes into the large intestine. And the large intestine, normally what you've got when it gets to the large intestine is bacteria, toxins, undigested foods, undigested fibers, undigested meat segments. So there are bits and pieces. That's why things like little bits of bone and can be prebiotics, because you know there are bits of bone that don't get, bits of meat, gristle, that's it, gristle, that don't get digested. So all of those will go into the large intestine, and then in the large intestine it kind of chills out and mixes it, moves it around, stops, moves it around, does what it needs to do, gets rid of the toxin, keeps the toxins there to get rid of it. Maybe water, there'll be a water reabsorption, there'll be some issues going on there. Some minerals that might be left over that are in the bolus will be maybe reabsorbed into the bowel. And so that's kind of going on in the large intestine until eventually it gets down to where it needs to go and you have a bowel movement. Now for everybody that system may be different amount of time, all of those there's lots of different factors that it can affect that, but essentially that's what's meant to happen. Now, what can happen that can go wrong? There are lots of things that can go wrong. Stress, eating things that cause inflammation in your digestive system, that's a huge one. Being intolerant to things. We talked about stress, so stress can dramatically slow down or increase the rate at which we excrete food, how we absorb food if it's not happening. Maybe we're chewing too fast. Bacteria, so different types of bacteria can also cause an issue. If we've got lots of unfriendly bacteria versus good bacteria, we'll get bloating, we'll get inflammation, we might get leaky gut, that type of thing. Then we've got parasites, your worms and your parasites, which again can cause problems. They can cause inflammation, they can cause leaky guts. So many things that can go wrong, and so many signs that can indicate things are going wrong. So not just locally in the gut, like digestive issues like bloating, constipation, wind, diarrhea, also external, so skin, getting dry around the mouth here, very flaky and dry and red around the mouth. That's one thing that I notice a lot, and that can indicate some issues in the stomach. That's a big one. Lots of blackheads can also indicate pH levels in the stomach. Maybe you're not digesting your food properly, so blackhead problems. Also mood problems. So a lot of our serotonin is produced in the gut, and it's part of our nervous system. So if our gut's not working properly, we might get low moods. We might also get insomnia. So there are lots of different signs. Some people also get the ridges on their nails. So longitudinal ridges on the nails can also indicate that your gut's not absorbing. Maybe the stomach acid isn't working for you. Maybe there's a bad bacteria. So if you've got lots of ridges on your nails, I do recommend working on your digestion. So like I mentioned, the first place to start is chewing. And then the second place to go is actually the stomach. So the stomach needs digestive enzymes to break down the foods, and it needs to be at a really nice acidity. So you want to make sure that before you eat, if your digestion isn't working perfectly or it's not working optimally, you want to do things like digestive enzymes. You can buy digestive enzymes. Some people like to use betaine hydrochloride, which is like a HCl supplement that really helps to boost your digestion. There is a way you can tell if your stomach acid is strong enough, and that's actually by doing a higher dose of the HCl tablets. And when you get kind of a warm sensation, that means, okay, that's too much, that's enough. So you know, if you have one tablet, you get a warm sensation, you know that your stomach acid is actually really good. If you have to take 3, you know maybe it's a little bit too alkaline. If you're vegan or vegetarian, you're more likely to have more alkaline stomach acid. So you really need to ensure that you're working on your stomach acid to absorb all the minerals and absorb all the vitamins from the food, because if you don't, you're actually there's going to be a lot of unabsorbed vitamins and minerals going straight through that your body can't use, because it hasn't actually broken down the cellulose around the fibers, particularly because you're eating a lot of fibrous juices. So as I said, it can take different times. So the food will go into the small intestine, and then the small intestine will do what it needs to do. Now, some people, when they eat foods, they get bloated and they get a lot of wind. It's normal to get a little bit of wind. In fact, you want to have a little bit of wind. A little bit of wind means you're feeding your good bacteria, your lactobacilli and your bifidum. So you want to get a little bit of wind. If you're getting very smelly wind from certain foods, so fructose foods or foods in the Liliaceae family, like the onion family, if you're getting smelly wind, that indicates a bad bacteria. So that's when you want to start really working and honing in your good bacteria. The good bacteria, like the lactobacilli, bifidus, they shouldn't produce smelly wind. So if you're getting really smelly wind, something's being broken down, and that smelly wind is the byproduct of the bacteria. So always be careful with your fermented veggies as well. If you're doing kombucha at home, you need to be 100% sure what bacteria you're getting, because it is very easy to be getting the wrong bacteria. So you really need to know what you're doing. The same goes with if you're making your own cultured vegetables. You really need to know that you're having the right bacteria. And if you find eating those gives you really, really smelly wind, then there is a chance that what you're doing is you're feeding bad bacteria. So what you may need to do is you may need to do a little bit of a dietary cleanse first before you go and feed that bacteria. So that's if you're getting the smelly wind. If you're just getting a little bit of normal wind, that's fine. And that's good. That shows that your bacteria is eating the food. Bacteria loves food. Bacteria loves food, especially like prebiotics. And, you know, eating prebiotic foods like Liliaceae family, like onions, like leeks, those kind of things, garlic. They actually feed the lactobacilli and they feed the bifidum bacteria, and they just help that thrive. So eating foods like that is fantastic. Also, eating asparagus, artichokes, those kind of foods. Endives, you know, that bitter endive. Those foods are wonderful at actually helping the good bacteria flourish. If you've been tested or you suspect you've got very low levels of lactobacilli or bifidus, then I highly recommend, when you're actually taking a probiotic, take a probiotic supplement and make sure you've had a meal before or after, and make sure you're actually feeding it what it needs to eat, feeding it the prebiotics. Those are very, very important. If you're not feeding your good bacteria, it's not going to thrive. And what we need to be doing, you need to be thinking of bacteria as this living entity. It's this living thing. You need to look after it and you need to feed it. The more you feed the good bacteria, the more it's going to thrive, the more it's going to push all the bad bacteria out. And there are lots of different bad bacteria that have lots of different effects. There's bacteria that are fatty bacteria, so they cause us to gain weight. There's bacteria that make us depressed. There's bacteria that actually make us more estrogen dominant. There's bacteria like Klebsiella, which give us lots of autoimmune issues, give us skin issues. They feed actually on starches, so you need to be careful with starches as well. So there's lots of different. Strep also. Strep can be a problematic bacteria, and that can lead to lots and lots of allergies, eczema-type symptoms. Staph can lead to psoriasis-type symptoms, boils on the skin. So, you know, you do need to be careful, and you need to be making sure you're feeding the good bacteria so it flourishes. When bacteria flourishes, it produces... when good bacteria flourish, they look after the gut, they produce B vitamins, they produce fatty acids, they produce good hormones, neurotransmitters, endorphins, also immune cells. So they have so much, they do so much, and they function so much. So it's really important that you're feeding them. Foods that can impede the gut and foods that can cause issues. Sugar is one of them. So if you think about your mouth. And if you think about when you're a kid and you ate lots of sugar and you've got lots of dental caries, that's simply because the sugar is feeding the bacteria that's destroying the enamel. So think of sugar like that. Any sugar will do that in your gut. So if you have got any gut problems and you have a break from sugar, it's really going to help your gut and give the prebiotics, the right prebiotics to feed the good bacteria and take the sugar out. Other foods that can cause issues, and especially foods that can cause a little bit of leaky gut. So gluten is one of them, dairy is one of them, soy is one of them, and also eggs can, if you're very, very sensitive. So if you're a very, very sensitive person and you've got any gut problems like colitis or like Crohn's or any issues in the gut, severe IBS symptoms that you haven't been able to sort out, I really advise that you have a little bit of a time off dairy, wheat, soy and eggs. Just those four. It doesn't have to be too long. 2 weeks off eggs, then stay off soy, stay off wheat, and then if you want to start introducing some light dairy products, you can do that. That's if you've got really severe gut problems and you really want to heal the gut. The gut can heal quite quickly. It just needs to be given the tools, the space, the equipment to do so. So that's all about the bacteria. And if you feel like you need to get in some good bacteria, then I would advise doing probiotics and then feeding it nicely, feeding it with some good prebiotic food, because you'll see it will flourish and you'll feel different. You'll just feel like your bowels are working much better. If you suffer from constipation, sometimes you just need to give your digestive system a bit of a break. And it's also good to remember that the large intestine is like a loop, up, across, down, ascending, descending, down. So up, across, down. And when you take some kind of laxative or when you cleanse out your bowel, especially if you're constipated, it cleanses out that whole loop. So it kind of takes 3 days to reassemble itself. So if you've done any cleansing, you'll probably have to wait 3 days to do a bowel motion. So don't do anything in between those 3 days. Don't take more laxatives or anything for the bowel. Give it 3 days and hopefully then you should have a proper bowel motion. So it's really, you need to just remember that, and remember that it is 3 days to kind of come back up so you can have another bowel motion. So that's if you do suffer from constipation. Fiber is one of the most important things. So if you're on a high protein diet and you're not having lots of fiber, that can actually cause some issues in the gut. Fiber, the bacteria feeds on fiber. The fiber goes into the colon. The bacteria feeds on it. So you really need to be making sure you're having about 40 grams of fiber a day. Fiber from leafy greeny vegetables, fiber from legumes, fiber from some fruits, but mainly vegetables. You want to be making sure you're getting those vegetables. So about 40 grams a day. That will help the body go through. A lot of people I see doing really high protein diets and not getting enough fiber, and that will actually stagnate your digestive system. And also the meat can kind of get a little bit festery as well if it's not moving through fast enough. So meat can stay in the stomach for about, up to 5 hours. So we need to give our digestive system a break. If you're a meat eater and you're eating meat at each meal, then you're snacking, your digestive system's just going to get completely backed up. What essentially happens, and this is what can cause a lot of issues with FODMAPs, with bloating, and with IBS, is when we eat food, it goes into our small intestine. The small intestine does as quickly and efficiently as it can. It all absorbs and goes into the large intestine. And then what happens then is the small intestine will clean itself, like clean everything out, get it all nice, ready for the next meal. However, if there's food in your stomach, the small intestine ain't cleaning itself. So it will wait. It will wait. Food comes through in the small intestine. It's a few hours later, goes out the small intestine. The small intestine says, right, we're going to eat. But then you're suddenly putting a snack in your mouth. The small intestine says, wait, hold off, we're not going to clean. This is when we get that bacterial issue in the small intestine, SIBO, because it's not getting the opportunity to clean. You have to let your small intestine clean. This is why it's vital to fast, not in terms of doing the 5-2 diet or starving yourself, but making sure you've got gaps between eating, particularly if you're a meat eater, Vegetarians, yeah, vegetables do go out of the vegans, particularly the foods will leave the digestive tract a little bit quicker. But if you've had breakfast and you've had a meaty breakfast, you've had a nice paleo breakfast or something like that, you need to wait till lunch. If you're snacking, your small intestine is not going to be able to clean itself. Then we have problem with bacteria, we have problem with inflammation, we have problems with the small intestine, then getting inflamed, then getting too much bacteria in it. And then we get things like FODMAPs. We get bacteria causing wind, causing pain, causing all kinds of things. And then that leads to candida, bacterial overgrowth, and all sorts of things down the road. So this is why it's important to actually space your meals out. I would definitely say if you're having a proper meal, if you're having a good hearty meal, you don't need to eat for another 5 hours. And if you're having dinner, really make sure you don't eat till breakfast. You should be fasting from about 7 o'clock at night. You should not be snacking after dinner. You should be fasting from 7 o'clock at night till the next day breakfast at 7 or 8 in the morning. 12 hours sleeping, resting, letting your digestive tract clean itself out, rid itself of everything. And that's really important for the small intestine. If you're not giving your small intestine a chance to clean, it's not going to do its job properly. It's not going to absorb nutrients properly, and then we get into all sorts of problems there. So I hope that, I just wanted to mention that because there's too much food going into the mouth and not allowing the digestive system. And then I'm seeing so many people bloated, particularly at work, because people are snacking all day at work. Boredom or stress, they get bloated, they can't digest food, and it's because the digestive system's gone, what's going on? Another thing, actually, I just wanted to touch on is people who are constipated, and sometimes it can be due to the messaging. And I actually read this in a wonderful, I read this the other day, and what happens is we've got two sphincters down at the anus. We've got the internal and the external. So if you're at work and you need to break wind or something, but you don't want to because you're at work, you hold it in. And so it goes out of the internal to the external. You realise that you need to break wind, and you go, no, back in it goes. That causes bloating and wind build-up, but also it changes the signalling. And what it happens is it makes the signalling get confused between one another. And then eventually if you've been doing this for a while, when you do need to go to the bathroom, your body doesn't work. Your body doesn't go, we've got something down there, toilet on the toilet. Your body gets mixed up, and that can cause constipation. So it's really important as well to work on the messaging system. If you suffer from constipation, you need to start tuning into your body, listening into your body. And as soon as you need to break wind, as soon as you need to go to the toilet, whatever it is, you listen to it and then you go. So that's important, particularly for those. I've got a lot of clients who've come to me with chronic constipation. So particularly if you're suffering from chronic constipation, it's important to do that. Listen to your body, listen to the signs, and answer the call. Another thing that's great actually for constipation is using the squatty potty. And the squatty potty is fantastic because not only does it put your colon into a really great place to go to the bathroom, and so you're more likely to actually go to the toilet. In fact, I would advise everyone to go online and buy a squatty potty today because they are fantastic. It helps you go to the toilet. It stops the straining. But one of the wonderful things is it actually cleans the colon out properly. And what parasites and worms can do, they can actually be quite an issue. And what mama worm does is she goes far down near the anus as she can, and she lays her eggs and maybe hangs out around there, and all this sort of thing happens. But if you use a squatty potty, it can actually really cleanse your bowel out even more, because there's a pocket that parasites and things can kind of sit in. When we sit down on the toilet normally, there's a bit that doesn't get that pressure, but when we go onto a squatty potty, it adds this extra pressure, kind of push it through, and it can push out parasites and extra bacteria. So it's actually a really great way to cleanse. So I would advise everyone to get a squatty potty. They're amazing. They help cleanse the bowel out. They help you go to the toilet. They're good on your back and they're strong on your core. So I would highly recommend that. Anyway, I digress into squatty potties, but I wanted to pop that in. So I just wanted to make sure I've sort of covered the main things I wanted to cover today, and why you need to work on cleansing your digestive tract. So the things that are to start with when you're cleansing your digestive tract is to start with how you eat your food. So make sure you eat in a relaxed environment. Make sure you chew your food properly. Have some apple cider vinegar and water before each meal. and have about 3 meals a day. Try and have a space of 5 hours to give your body a little bit of a break. It's also good to have a cleanse day. There's nothing wrong with doing a cleanse day. If you're at home relaxing, you can't do this when you're stressed out. There's nothing wrong with having a day where you're just sort of sipping on water. If you really feel like you need to give your bowel a little bit of a cleanse out, that's very important. But if you're stressed or if you're working, if you've got lots of demands, I wouldn't advise doing a cleanse. You need to be totally relaxed. So that's your meals a day. Have one, if you're a meat eater, have a vegetarian day a week, because the extra fiber, the extra prebiotics will help cleanse the digestive system through, and that's very helpful if you're getting any backup of any meat, because there are undigested meat fibers and they can cause a little bit of fermentation, so it's really good to cleanse those out. And also what it does is it actually helps your body sort of reassimilate the B vitamins, because we do need extra B vitamins and extra water to break down the amino acids in the meat and then do what it needs to do to those. So definitely it helps with hydration and helps with B vitamins, but it can help with the bowel as well. So I definitely recommend a vegetarian day per week. Really make sure you're getting your prebiotic foods, your artichokes, your onions, your garlics, your asparagus. Your endive is one of my personal favourites, and legumes like lentils. These are all foods that feed the lactobacilli, feed the bifidum bacteria, and help it to get strong, so it pushes out the bad bacteria. So that's very, very important. If you feel like you've got a little bit of leaky gut, then just doing a little bit of a cleanse on the gut and having foods like pure aloe vera in a smoothie, having foods like slippery elm or lady's fingers, they're all very good at healing the gut. So if you feel like you've got a little bit of a leaky gut, and leaky gut symptoms can be food intolerances, all things like that. So if you feel you've got a little bit of leaky gut, you can add in foods like aloe vera, slippery elm, bone broth, glutamine, and definitely add in foods with zinc like oysters or even zinc supplements. And these help to heal the stomach lining, and you can heal it within 3 days. Our stomach actually gets a little bit leaky after antibiotics, after chemicals, and after alcohol. So if you take all of those things away, foods that you're intolerant to, and actually do 3 days of cleansing your gut, 3 days of healing your gut, you can actually strengthen it, and you can actually stop that leaky gut quite quickly, because it does turn over very quick. So that's a real positive thing. And then make sure, if you haven't got an appendix, it's very important that you take probiotics, because the appendix helps to clean out the bowel. So if you haven't got an appendix, make sure you're taking probiotics. And if you've had any appendix flare-ups but you've still got your appendix, a good way to actually get it cleansed out is maybe to do a bit of a bowel cleanse, like an enema or something like that, because that actually helps the appendix clean itself out and pump out the good bacteria. So I would highly recommend that. Okay, so I've been through so much today, and really just talking about the good bacteria, talking about things you can add into your diet to cleanse your digestive system. Were there any other foods I wanted to talk about? Yeah, just adding in the prebiotics, adding in the chia seeds as well are wonderful for cleaning the gut out. Adding in seaweed, again, wonderful for the gut, wonderful for healing the gut, and wonderful for cleansing the gut out. But the most important thing is to rest it and feed the good bacteria. Those are the two most important things for cleansing your gut. Once you've started working your gut, you can move on to the liver. And I'm going to be talking about the liver in the next one. So today, if you've joined me on the email listing for the free cleanse cheat sheet, you'll get some recipes for your gut, and you'll also get another email. If you want to join that, you can just join, click the link above. And tomorrow and today, I'll be sending out suggestions in your bowel and digestive system and cleansing that. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about the liver. So it's really exciting talking about the liver. Finally, we've got there. So that'll be on day 4. So thanks everybody for joining. I hope you found that useful. There was a lot that I went through just then. But great. Thanks for joining. And I'll see you all. Our flaxseed. Okay, Kelly, our flaxseed capsule's good. Yeah, I mean, ground flax seeds, I always go for organic, Kelly, because flax seeds are super highly sprayed. I mean, I would get, do you mean flaxseed oil, the actual flaxseed oil? I would actually, from the health food store, get some nice LSA or organic flax seeds that I grind down myself, and then just put that into smoothers, because then you're getting the fibre as well. I'm not a huge fan on flaxseed oil capsules simply because it can degrade quite fast. So that's the only reasoning I wouldn't do that. But I would definitely get a good quality flaxseed. What wonderful thing actually, Kelly, to do with flax seeds is you can soak them 1 part flaxseed to about 3 or 4 parts water, soak them overnight, and then you can drink the liquid. Wonderful at just restoring the gut, and it's wonderful to help soothe the gut as well. So yeah, flax seeds do help, but I would just buy normal flax seeds, organic, and I would grind them down nicely. I hope that helped. Thank you so much for all your questions. Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining. And next time I'm going to be talking about the liver. So the liver is so important because the liver actually helps the bowel to do its job and cleanse. So when you work on the liver, you really are working on the bowel. So it's so important. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy the sun if you're in the sun today. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.